Today, boys and girls, we are going to do the 3-spring trigger upgrade that I have recently done. So, if any of you followed along, I was experiencing some auto fire with my regulator bypass. And I had gone to a heavier bolt spring. I just believe that was a band-aid. There was something else going on here. So my sear is already shimmed, so I knew that wasn't the problem, because there's a lot of you out there that are running high power and you're not experiencing this issue. So let me just show you how this thing works. So your sear here, when you air your marker up, actually pushes forward and lands on top of that folded silver piece there. I think they call it a well. So when you air your gun up, it goes forward like that and waits for your trigger pull. When you pull your trigger, like that, the bolt fires, and as the sear releases, you can see how it pops off of that well. Now, when the bolt's coming back, it slips across this, and by now you've probably either let go of the trigger or you're still holding it, because it happens really fast. And when this goes to push forward again, now it's in contact with this well, which is supposed to cushion the bolt as it catches it again. Catches the bolt, and wait for your next trigger pull. And you can hear it click. There we go. So that would be your waiting again to fire. But what was happening, I believe, is when my bolt was bouncing back, this spring that is inside this little folded taco here is too weak. So in this position, when the bolt, because of my bypass and having unregulated air, was just bottoming this spring out, and it actually, when it bottoms out, it won't catch the bolt. This sear ends up too low. It can actually push it too far forward, and going forward is also down. When I open this up, you'll see the slot's sort of on an angle, so the natural way this wants to go is down. So I ordered a bunch of springs off AliExpress. Went through a bunch of them. Not that one. And the size that I ended up with is 0.8 millimeter spring diameter, wire gauge by 15 millimeters long with a 5 millimeter outside diameter. So 0.8 is the wire gauge, that's the thickness of the wire. 15 millimeters is the length, so obviously from top to bottom. And the diameter is 5 millimeters, which is outside diameter, is the way this particular company measures springs. So without further ado, I'm just going to tear this down. This is out of my CQMF. It is already shimmed, so I'm going to remove the shim. I'm going to replace the sear spring, the well spring, and the trigger return, just for the sake of simplicity. That way it's all the same. When I take this apart, you'll see this spring's different, this spring's different, and this spring's different. Alright, let's go. Alright, so there's lots of videos out there, and I already did one to open this trigger groove up, but I'll do it here again. So first thing, remove the grip. It's a 3 millimeter Allen key. It's got to be long enough to reach down in the grip. Pull it off like this, pulling upwards, because you have your little spring and your ball here in the side. Don't want to lose those, so let's pull it out, set it aside. Alright, next is you got to remove your selector switch, which is a 2.5 millimeter. Set that aside. What's that? That's just a little chip of the black coating off the selector. No harm, no foul. Alright, so next is you need a Phillips screw to undo this guy here. And that's it. It'll come apart now. So I usually just work it side to side here. If you do it nicely, everything stays in place. Like that. Perfect. Okay, so you can see my shim sear is already there. This is just, actually this is a sear spring here. I'd already upgraded my return spring. No particular reason. It does make the trigger feel a little nicer. But we are going to go heavier with that still. And also we are going to knock this pin out here. It's just a push pin. Kitty? I told you, I'm making a video. So push this out and take this folded up piece off and then new spring in there. So we will pop the sear spring first. Whoa, be careful with that. So there's your sear spring. Next we are going to pull the return spring. So you can see those two are identical, and that's because I already upgraded the return spring. Next, we will pull the trigger group, the trigger off here. And this pin just pushes out. Now I did this on my M17 rather easily, but I have not done this to the M17, so hopefully I don't struggle too much. So it's best to take the tension off of that pin as you push it. I'm just going to use my 2.5 millimeter Allen key here. You know what? I'm going to pull this guy out of here first. It's getting in my way. That's just the trigger pivot pin there. Alright, try this again. Move that. Let's move this out of the way here. Try and keep this stuff in view for you guys. I'm low tech here. iPhone 7. Oh, well, this one is a lot tougher than mine. All right, let's try something bigger. Up here a little bit. I did just flip the screwdriver around here and so get this started. I think once you get it started, there you go. Once you get it started, it should push through relatively easily. Should. There we go. So it's pushing through. This is spring loaded, so don't let go of this till you get this pin completely out. So I'm gonna push it right. You know what? I need a smaller Allen key. That might be the issue here. Push that right out of there. So there's your well pin there. So pull this well off, and you'll see there is a spring under there. So it's as simple as, I say simple, you can see that spring's pretty light duty compared to this. I can barely crush that one. This one, I can just. So I will grab one of these new springs here. Now this may be a little difficult. So I found the easiest way to do this is take the new spring, put it inside the well like that. Get it lined up there, and there is a little pin, a locating pin there, so not difficult to screw it up. Now this is a little tough, so you got to hold this under tension and get your pin back in there. Sorry if you can't really see it too good, but and it's little guy is tough. Okay, I got it started, and that's a tough spring to get in there. So you got to get it all the way through, and you want it even on both sides. So I'm going to take my backwards screwdriver again here and push on this. And try and keep the tension off of it when you're doing it. Makes it easier. I think I pushed that too far. I did, but it's all the way through now, so not terribly critical to keep the tension off of it. So I'm just going to work it a little bit here. Still a little too far. Better. Okay, I'm gonna call that good. So you can see it's about even, the pin's sticking out about even on both sides. So that's done. Easy peasy. I make it look easy sometimes, but that really hurts my fingertips doing that. So take your trigger. Let's get rid of these so I don't mix them up. Grab another one of these new springs. Oop, too many come out there. Put another one aside here because I'm gonna need one more. I usually just kind of stick it right back to this little notch here. Stick the new spring in like this. Kind of put it on the pedestal there and line up your pivot point. There she is. That's back together. And you should try to keep this, I don't want to dump all my pins out there, but you should try to keep this spring vertical when you set it in. You can make little adjustments with a pick or whatever, but best to keep it vertical. Springs work better in their direction of travel. Next is the sear spring. So again, this is a new one. I find this easiest is to actually do this one in place. So put it on the ball and just use the kind of base of your thumb there and just slip it in. That's it. So you got a brand new. Again, this one you want to try and keep horizontal too. So I'll make a little adjustment there. There we go. You got a brand new sear spring. New heavier well spring and a return spring. And that is all. So we'll just throw this back together quickly. There's a little nut in there. That's your grip screw nut. You don't want to lose that, so make sure it stays in place. Make sure all your pins are vertical. Just ease this back down on there. I usually start from the bottom voila. Before I go, I won't bore you with the whole thing, but I'll just put the Phillips screw back in there quick, because I do want to show you something else that I spotted on my CQ. Maybe to watch out for. Maybe it's not even a defect, but I think it is. Alright, so that's good. Safety's on. Safety's off. Perfect. Alright, we'll just set that aside for a sec. So, this is my CQ bolt. This is, I don't know, maybe got 200 rounds through it. But when I took it apart, I thought something didn't look right. This is what I discovered. I got a really low budget, high lumen flashlight here, so I don't blind the camera. I don't know if you can see that. See that gap between the front half of the bolt and the rear? So I disassembled this, cleaned all this out. There's a little locating pin there. I made sure there's nothing in it. Put it back together, Loctite together. Still no bueno. It's still got a gap there, and that gap can't account for air loss because there's no O-ring in here. So the air travels through this, through the back here, and as it's passing through, I'm sure you're losing something out of here. So I have a new bolt. You can clearly see there is no gap in this one. So I'm going to use this one out of my CQ. I got a couple of things up my sleeve that I'm going to try, but I'm going to use this new bolt that I already had in my kit. So watch out for that. I don't know, you know, it may be the difference of a few FPS. It might not affect it at all, but an air leak is an air leak. An air loss is an air loss. So check it out. All right, guys. I'll include the size of the spring in the description.